We've lived in this house at the edge of Hawthorne, myself and my wife Helen, for close on 20 years now. I've slept, cooked, argued, laughed in this place, and we've been happy here. The locals like to call it old-fashioned, but to me it's always just been home. A frame of peeling white paint, tall narrow windows, a porch that sags just enough to make you wonder if the boards will give way. Nothing remarkable at all, till the day the door appeared. I'd walked the hallway 1,000 times, and yet there it was suddenly. A narrow, unassuming door, pale oak with a brass knob that hadn't been there before. I stopped, stared, convinced I must be mistaken, imagining the doorway had always been there but somehow hidden from my memory. No angle, no shadow, no corner I could recall suggested this door should exist. Yet here it was, squeezed between the kitchen and the linen closet. A doorway that somehow belonged and yet absolutely did not. Hadn't been there yesterday. It couldn't have been. I pressed my palm against it, hoping the wood might dissolve under my touch, reveal itself as wallpaper and shadow. It stayed solid. I opened it on a whim. Inside was a bedroom. I should have recoiled at its perfect normalcy. A twin bed with a crocheted blanket, a small dresser, a single window looking out of the backyard. Everything was clean, precise, untouched. My pulse quickened, though I had no reason to be afraid, and yet there was a chill there that wasn't outside. A stillness so deliberate it felt almost alive. After a few moments, I stepped out of the room again and tried to arrange my thoughts. Had the room always been there? And I hadn't noticed somehow. I hadn't noticed it in 20 years. That wasn't possible. No. What's the chance that Helen hadn't noticed? But the fact that she had never mentioned a new room meant either that I was hallucinating its existence, or I had completely forgotten it. Neither option spoke well for my state of mind. When she came back in late that evening, I nearly called her to look. But the words dried up. Her name even reached my tongue, but the thought of her eyes narrowing at me, patient, pitying, stopped me dead. Better to stay quiet, better to watch. If she said she couldn't see it, then what would that make me? Mad? Broken somehow? Better to stay quiet, waiting for her eyes to flicker to the door, for her to pause, even laugh. But she didn't. She walked past it as if nothing had changed. And in that moment, I realised I didn't know which would terrify me more. Her never seeing it, or her seeing it plainly. For no good reason I can explain, I began leaving things in the room. A mug from the kitchen, a folded shirt, a notebook. And each morning, one or more items, well, they'd be gone. I don't mean hidden or misplaced. I would check the hallway, the closets, even the attic. They were simply not there. And sometimes, the objects seemed to return, but not as they'd been left. The mug would be a different colour. The distinctive notebook would now be a different size. That sort of thing. Parts of me prayed that she would notice the door. But then if she did, then what were we to believe about the reality of all things? One morning I asked Helen, were those new shoes of mine? Shoes I knew I'd left in the room the night before. I don't know, she said, without looking up from her tea. Are you sure? Her eyes met mine for a heartbeat. Nothing. A faint smile, maybe. Oh, they'll turn up, she said. I studied her face. If she knew more about the room, the door. She wasn't about to say. If she knew nothing, then I was the fool. Either way, I let it drop. That's how we've always survived in our house, by letting things drop. And sometimes, just sometimes, I thought Helen knew. If the room was real, then sooner or later she would walk into it herself. At best, sometimes she'd pause as she passed the hallway, almost brushing her hand along the wall near the door. And each time she did so, I held my breath, certain she'd stop this time, and glance, or say something, anything. Nothing. I found myself lingering at the door of the room, at odd hours in the night, feeling the pull of it. Sometimes the brass knob was cold in my hand, sometimes it was warm. The air inside shimmered faintly, edges of the room blaring like light through water. Time felt strange there. I could spend half an hour inside, and then step outside the room, only to find just 5 minutes had passed. At other times, it felt as if seconds stretched into eternity. One morning, I noticed the dresser mirror within the room reflected something it shouldn't have. In the glass, the bed was neatly made, but there was also someone sitting on it. A boy, maybe 10, 11, reading a tattered book. He looked up briefly at me, his expression unreadable, then disappeared when I blinked. I leaned closer, only to see my own reflection staring back, alone and unchanged. The next day, on entering the room once again, I found a book on the dresser there. I hadn't brought it in. Its cover was blank, but each page contained a memory I did not recognize. Moments from my life twisted slightly, conversations I hadn't had, mornings I didn't remember, small arguments resolved differently. One entry made my stomach twist. A short quarrel with my wife about the mysterious door itself, her insisting she hadn't noticed it, me growing frustrated at her calm dismissal. A conversation that never occurred. The room's edges seemed to pulse that day. I rehearsed the words in my head 100 times. Helen, do you see it too? The sentence grew heavier each time, till it felt like lifting a stone. But the closer I came to speaking those words, the more the room seemed to hum. In the end, I kept it secret, or perhaps it kept mine. The door is still there. We still live here. I just avoid it now. Tonight, I felt the hallway stretched, a little longer than it always has done. Yes, honestly. And I can feel something now, just the other side of the door. Something waiting. I think Helen has been waiting all along too.